Welcome to Clarity and Purpose. Our world is full of people who are overworked and overwhelmed. They lose focus on what matters, struggle to find a vision for the future, and lose time with those they love. We help businesses and their teams clearly understand their purpose and help them communicate more effectively. I'm your host, James Thorne. I'm joined by my co-host, Jake Jordan. Hey, Jake.
Yo.
Hey, remember when we first met?
I do.
What was just a random coffee shop meetup, right?
It was. I was like, who's this dude?
Yeah. What did you think of me?
I thought you were quirky. You're just such a likable, personable guy that I sat down and, the conversation took off quickly. So I liked you the first time I met you.
Yeah, same. We met through a mutual friend, which we were kind of blown away we haven't met already because we knew like hundreds of people that we're connected to.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what to think of it at first. I just literally was making a connection.
Yeah.
And I think I remember even saying, I like you in that that meeting. I think I said, I like you. Like,
I like you.
Like that. Yeah. That felt so weird. I walked in and I was like, that was weird. But look at us today, right? I feel like we've become really good friends. And it's been, a year and a half now?
Like almost to the
since
day.
We met.
August. Yeah.
Since we met. And then we started doing work together. And now we're all in with work. So
all in.
Man, that's what I love about today's guest. He's someone I randomly met. It wasn't even through a connection. We passed by handing a pen to him at Starbucks.
Yep.
Okay. And then we kicked off a conversation. We ended up going immediately next week to a coffee together. And we've just been connected now for a few years. So let's just introduce our guest like we do every week. This guest likes to define his title as Chief Forecasting Officer. Truly finding your future. What is your purpose? He's an educator, motivational speaker, and spends most of his time with students, helping them truly discover their why and purpose before they step out into this world, helping others that communicate with students also build a culture of forecasting their future. I'm proud to introduce my friend, TC Hughes. All right, TC, thank you so much for joining me, man.
How's it going, sir?
Dude, doing well. I'm just grateful you fit it in your schedule, and you got a lot going on these days.
I do, man. I'm so happy to be here with you. Likewise.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, man, I know, like I said, we're fitting it in here. I know, like, we got backpacks in the background. You got computers set up. And we'll, as far as the intro too, talking about being an educator, chief forecasting officer, man, you've got a lot on your plate. But what would you say? How would you describe your why? What's your big purpose?
That's a great question. My why is I want to introduce and for the most part, sometimes reintroduce people back to what their why is. And most importantly, who their why is. I'm a man of faith. So, I believe that everything flows through our relationship with our Father, our Heavenly Father. And if people can just understand why God loves them so, how God loves them so, and most importantly, see themselves as God sees them. I mean, that's true empowerment. That's true motivation. That's true influence. And that's true tapping into what's inside of you so that everything on the outside of you can follow you instead of you chasing after it. So my why is to empower people just to find that why within them. And that's
awesome. Man, we need more people like that because people... And we know this, and I know you see it every day. People have a hard time discovering what their why is.
They do. Yeah, a lot of people.
So how does that work? So right now, Monday through Friday, you're teaching students, helping them grow.
One of the things I always say is that the blessing about being an educator is that not only do I get to, in a sense, train, students for tests and, the X's and O's of education, but one of my main purposes above that is to prepare them for life. So not only do we train the student, but my job is to impact and influence the actual person. Because how do we connect, education and identity? We have so many people, children and grown people for that matter, who for some reason they're highly educated, but how do they connect education to identity? Or they're spinning the ever-spinning cycle of trying to find themselves or connect the dots or looking for purpose. We both know that, especially on our level, there are so many people that have great common sense, but do they have a great centered purpose? And so my job as an educator to proactively reach children at an early age to help them connect education, identity, purpose, and I do it all in the classroom Monday through Friday.
That's awesome. And your classroom is what specifically? What do you teach?
Math and science. That's why all the computers and book bags and everything else you see around here. Math and science, my two babies.
Man, I know what's great about that because you just defined you're teaching math and science, but there's a bigger purpose behind all of that.
There's a bigger purpose behind all of it. Yes, indeed.
So how does that, do you have any short stories or random things you could connect to that, some students you have from this past year?
One of my students just yesterday, I'm glad you asked it, just yesterday, we've been talking to him about his focus because he's a bright kid, but he tends to just get distracted. And I talked to his mom last week and we've been kind of working. And it's funny because yesterday I looked at him and I said, kid, you can have everything you're looking at around you if you focus on what's inside of you. Now, look down at the paper, focus. I had to turn around, look at the paper, focus. Don't be worried about everything around you. And that's just kind of a, anecdote of, the life lessons that if he gets it now, that principle is going to carry him through high school, through college, through marriage, through business endeavors. And those are just kind of some of the small things that I walk away, or they don't know that I get goosebumps because, as I've always said, when truth is in the room, God not only talks through you, but he talks to you too. So I hear little things like that come out of myself. I'm like, okay, mental check, that's for me too, because we both need that on the same level.
Man, I love that. A friend of mine always says, I'm teaching to myself. You just get to listen.
I love it. Perfectly said.
That's great. So you're in a lot of different areas too with students, and you have programs, and you've got after school things. You've got connections where you're helping do this on a practical level, deeper than obviously math and science, which obviously you got to have, right? But what are ways that you see students, those light bulb moments, right, where they're making that connection to what their why and purpose is? How do you kind of get to that moment? I know that sometimes it takes time, but what are some practical things that you do when you're connecting with your students to help them understand what that is?
One of the things we, especially with math and science, is so easy to connect because as I always tell them, wherever you go, math and science will be there too. And so when we're talking about division, multiplication, measurements, how do you convert certain things? A lot of times I ask them, before you can answer the question that you're going to give me, I don't care about your answer. I care about the why of your answer. And some of my students look at me like, initially they looked at me like, Mr. Hughes, you don't care about the answer? I'm like, no, I care about what you're thinking, because if I can get to what you're thinking, then the right answer is going to come. And so it's little things like that, practical, subliminal, implicit, but direct. And sometimes they catch, sometimes they don't. But I am hitting the core, the root, because even though the Bible says, if we get the things from the root, the tree has to respond according to the root, and the root always has to respond according to where it's being watered. So the source in this classroom will always be the scripture, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so my job is from the beginning of August to the end of June, when I have these babies in my care, is to try to get them to reimagine life through education, through love, because I love my babies. I'll tell all my teachers when they ask me, I say that before I can correct them, I have to connect with them. And I always must first lead with love in all that I do. So those are just little ways that I reach the kids in ways that sometimes they know, sometimes they get, but I always ask them, before you give me the answer, I want to really know what you're thinking, because that tells me your why.
That's awesome. So what are things getting in the way of fulfilling your purpose? What are things getting in the way?
In the grand scheme, I think more just systems, because everything that we know that self-sustains itself are the systems in place that allows it to do so. So I think those are the main hurdles, if that's the best word, that would, limit the impact and definitely the reach. And most importantly, the change, sustainable change. that I want to make happen in not just the life of children, but in the life of families. Because if the kids go home to chaos, they're going to come back to school with that chaos. So holistically, let's not just talk about the kids. Let's talk about the environments the kids are raised. Let's talk about the parents who are struggling with their own issues, trying to figure out an environment that for some they've never even seen. So they're learning on the fly. So how do we, make a safe haven, not only for the kids, but for the parents, so that on all sides, there is no loophole to understanding God's love?
Too many people leave their life up to fate and wander aimlessly inside a directionless story. It robs us of meaning and stifles our productivity. But fate is a terrible writer. Letting fate guide your day is like trying to write a best-selling novel by pouring alphabet soup on a counter. It's never going to turn out good. Do you struggle to know what to focus on each day? Do you find yourself setting goals but never achieving them? Have you struggled to find a daily routine that you can actually stick with? We get it. We have tried lots of ways to plan our lives too. This course is the one you've been waiting for. It will help you cast a vision for your life that is exciting and will keep you on track daily so you can actually achieve it. It's time to take back control of our lives and create a life full of direction and meaning. It's time to become a hero on a mission. This course will help you cast a vision for your life and will keep you on track so you actually achieve it. Click below to join us for a workshop to become a hero on a mission. All right, I got a curveball for you.
Talk to me.
How are you getting in the way of fulfilling your purpose?
Ooh. Hey, you threw that thing.
Try to hit it.
Yeah, you did, man. So let's talk, because you're my brother, so I'm going to talk. I think for me, personally, focus, consistent focus, applied focus, because, as a creative, there's a lot of things going through your head. When to do, how to do, the resources to do it, and not just financial resources, it's just human capital, You and I have personally talked about, hey, I want to stay focused on my main thing, and I want the people around me to help as far as the vision. And so that consistent and applied focus, and to not let the fear of the unknown stop the process of getting there. So me personally, I think that would be, my thing.
So what are you doing about it now to make those stretches happen?
I like it. That's a good segue. I took, one of the classes, the training that you hold, and one of the great things I liked about it was the writing your own obituary, right? And to really hear my own words about what I thought, what I want the people that matter to me say. It helped me to weed out a lot of things in this year. I remember one of the things I posted on social media about 2021 is I wanted to love harder, forgive easier, sleep more, stress less, and I think I put be while yet becoming, the master of my future while living in my present. So those are the things now that I'm applying to this year, and applying to, business endeavors, relationships, friendships, to make sure that everything is centered so that I can walk a narrow path to expansion. I think those are one of the things that we talked about too, that the narrow path to expansion. And sometimes you want to bring so much with you, but as I often have said when I've done motivation, empowerment speaking, the rocket ship alone teaches us that for every new elevation, something has to fall off. And so for me, my own walk, my own life, and everything that I'm doing, trying to make sure that as I elevate, I take what's needed and, release the things that are no longer necessary.
That's awesome. Well, since you brought that up, what are ways then, because when you're talking about that obituary, writing that story about what you want people to say about you at the end of your life, how did that, and then working backwards to a day-to-day plan, help you kind of structure your day-to-day?
I have a mantra of mine: see the big picture, work the small details, and execute the end results with excellence. Now, that's my personal mantra that I use: business, relationship, whatever. Now, writing that obituary, now that's the grand finale picture. You know, what I mean? That's grand finale. So seeing that, and then walking that back day to day, you know, really getting up like you guys, you know, emphasized and checking it, you know what I mean? Write the vision and make it plain. But sometimes we have to revisit the vision to, you know, in a sense, re-up on our commitment, recommit to the commitment that we made, and not have just the routine, but have the discipline to that routine, right? And so writing it down, looking at it, then I had to make a schedule. Like, you know, we talked about that. And sometimes you know, creatives are sporadic sometimes. We don't want to be caged in. We want to have flow and be free, right?
It's good.
But again, talking about systems are, you know, a little bit structured. And so what I learned from that training, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 hours we got that training that day, that Saturday morning. I was lacking the structure of actually putting it down and putting a time stamp on it. Because at the end of the day, death is a timestamp, and that's what I took from it ultimately. So I needed to put a timestamp on my day because ultimately we all have a timestamp on our life. And once I did that, brother, I promise you, I was able to literally start accomplishing my goals because instead of seeing this big grand picture that I was doing, I was just working small chunks, is what you guys taught me. And it took a lot of the pressure off getting it done. Can I get it done? When is it going to get done? God gives me a big vision. How do I work these small steps? Just one bite at a time, brother. One bite at a time. And that's what I learned most.
Dude, that's solid. And I know you've got other programs, stuff you've implemented yourself, especially teaching students.
Right.
But I bet that just, you know, even them having, when they walk into the class, there's a daily plan, right? There's a daily step, there's actions to take place.
Right.
And I think if we could just apply that to our lives, man, that's huge, huge. Okay. So I felt like that was a lot in 15 minutes there. That was, I mean, I feel like people could take that right there, walk away and change their life. So,
do something with it. Yeah. Let's do
yeah.
something.
So, what else would you like to share? What else is on your heart?
You know, one thing I would say that really for this year, with not just having purpose, one of the things that I'm learning is purpose has to live in dominion. And I don't think we talk about that word. I mean, I'm kind of writing around it a little bit now because I'm kind of exploring it. Like that God gave man purpose, but He also gave God dominion. And so that's the next level that I think we really have to tap into. Purpose tells us what our capacity is, what our scope is, what we can do. Now, where can we get that done? Where is our dominion? Because He gave Adam dominion over the earth, and He gave him Kentucky. Sorry.
It's all right.
Pardon the interruption, teachers. If you will send your focus group kiddos down to the library with the Chromebook, please send your focus group kiddos down with your Chromebook. Thank you.
I'll be there with the Chromebook.
Right, it's a school day, right? So God first gave him dominion, and then He gave him the purpose to work within that dominion. And I think that's the next level, what my focus and what I want to teach, what I want to emphasize is to not just now find your purpose, but what is the God-given dominion that you have to do that purpose when? And that's where you get your power, your strength, your authority, your confidence to know that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how and where, the who, what, when, where, why, and how that I talk about will allow you to do that and do that in an effective way. And then once you have dominion, then you have reign.
Yeah.
You know, so we can go from purpose to having dominion, to having reign. Then we have that sustainable success. We have those systems that are also sustainable. And then we are able to go back to that place of living in the garden like God and having communion with Him. Because ultimately, God, the reason why I believe He created us like Him is because He wanted to have us to have that understanding what it is to be like Him, you know? And so if we're going to understand what it is to be God, to have that true intimate relationship with the Lord, to where it takes us to a place where only true lovers can go, you know, beyond the first and second veil, but into the true holies of holies of relationships and intimacy with Him. We have to know how He thinks, how He talks, and we have to represent that. You know, always say that a shepherd, one of the dangers about being a shepherd, that the shepherd can't necessarily talk to the sheep because the sheep can't understand what it's like to be the shepherd. And oftentimes that's just the disconnect with our relationship with God, that he's trying to say, no, I gave you reason and I gave you logic and I gave you all the things to be like me. Now come. I gave you dominion. I gave you purpose. All the things that I have, I've given you opportunity. I gave you those things when you were born. Because I want you to feel and know what it's like. Then come back to me and we can have a conversation on a level that's kingdom, dominion, reigning. And when we get into that place and that space with God, I think it takes our understanding of who we are and who he is, and that true kinship, friendship, fatherhood. It takes it to another level. And I think that's the level that we should be. And again, I believe that is true empowerment, that is true motivation, and that is a true why that everyone, whether they know it or not, that's the true why that's within us all, that everyone is searching for. And I hope to get us there at the right time, the right place, before our time stamp is complete and has expired.
Man, that's good. If you know your purpose, you can connect it to your dominion, man, that is powerful.
Yeah. Then you will reign. Then you will reign.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you look at Tom Brady. Think about Tom Brady. Let's keep it on simplistic level. Tom Brady has been reigning for 20 years. He was able to, when I thought about it, this man was able to prove that you can actually take a system anywhere and create a culture in a new place and still have reign, dominion. Why? Because he knows his purpose, he knows his system, he just transferred the culture, got everyone on board, and the beat goes on. Everyone should be able to do that. Tom Brady should not be an anomaly. He should just be an example of what we can do.
That's awesome. TC, thank you so much, man. We need more teachers like you, educators, people going out to try to discover what other people's purposes are. Man, I'm just grateful to even know you.
No, likewise, man. And please, we talked about it. So if you, and just give me a small plug, if you're out there, because we talked about it, one of my goals is to, build a school that does talk specifically about purpose.
Good.
We have certain, points of emphasis that we want to talk about, from STEM all the way to purpose. Because again, there's no need to have a bunch of degrees and you don't know where to place them, right? A bunch of temperatures on a thermometer means nothing unless there's a set culture. So we're trying to teach kids, you are the temperature setter. Now set the temperature in each environment that you go into. How do you do that? So one of my goals personally, professionally, is to, build a charter school. So I have a book that I'm writing that hopefully would really talk about some of the things as far as fatherlessness and aimlessness that a lot of these children and grown people go to. Because a grown person who was aimless was once a kid who was also aimless, and no one stepped in between and gave them a purpose and taught them the way that they should go and that they should follow. So that leading up to all the things that I do as far as speaking, my shining moment would be to create a place for our kids to be taught right head on what their purpose is, because life is going to ask them questions regardless, and we know that they have to be able to answer one way or another. So if you're out there and you want to get involved, please reach out to me on social media, TC Hughes, or directly Tony Hughes Jr. That's JR at Gmail, and let's talk about it. Let's get up, let's get out, and let's do something.
That's good. I was going to ask where to connect with you. You just heard it, so we'll put those in the show notes. So that people can find that easily. Just go right below and click that link. Connect with TC. So TC, thank you again, man. Are you ready to dance it out?
Man, let me dance it out. Put the music on. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Man, I loved how he finished there. Like, we had the full stand-up dance. Like, it wasn't just in the chair. Like, no, it was the full-on dance. So TC, thank you. You win so far.
Yes, love it. You are the winner, and I'm all for people that like to dance like nobody's watching. So that's awesome. Speaking of dancing like nobody's watching, we're getting into a new season format we're going to be doing, and the dancing is going to stay. But we are going to have some new segments. We're going to have a little short segment where we're talking about helping somebody with their website or a mission statement or something like that. So we're going to help somebody on the spot, show you guys a little of the work we do. And
Right.
then we're going to have some other kind of fun little things in there we're not going to tell you yet about. And
that's
before that,
actually in the future because what's before that? We're doing 8 weeks of what?
I was going to say, before that, we've got 4 more of these format shows. So
Yep.
we're going to finish this out. So you're getting, I don't know, number 3, number 4 of 4, something like that right now. Then we're going to have an 8 video section where we're actually going to walk you through our growth plan. And these are nicely produced videos. We've put a lot of time and effort and production time. So we're actually going to walk you through 8 steps and give you some introductions and things like that. So you have 8 weeks, so almost like a little mini course. And then we're going to go to our new format where we got some cool, fun new stuff to do. And it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, so stick around with us. We really appreciate you joining in. And we believe when a business leader aligns their team with their message, they become unstoppable.